My ex abandoned our daughter for years now. He wants her back to comfort his grieving wife. I refused, and now he thinks he can take me to court. He has no idea what's coming. So I, 33, have raised my daughter, 6F, all on my own. She was born from a one-night stand with a now former friend, 37 meters. We never got together, and he refused to be involved in my pregnancy or my daughter's first 4 years of life. I was stressed out emotionally because it's a big change, but I never asked for child support or forced him to be involved. I have enough income to send my daughter to private school. I'm perfectly fine on my own. The issue started when he reappeared from wherever he went and decided he wanted visitation out of nowhere. He's not in my daughter's birth certificate. Father is listed as unknown. He wanted to have that amended. I said no, and that if he wants, best he'll get is to meet her in outings with myself or my daughter's godparents. He agreed, but he's been constantly pressuring getting parental rights. The court already gave him a big fat no, unless he pays 4 years of child support, which with his income goes somewhere around $230,000. He hasn't paid a cent. My daughter doesn't even call him dad or recognize him as dad. She calls him Mr. I keep it very clean. I never bad-talked him, never made up stories. When she asked about her father, I used to say it was just the two of us. Even during court, the assigned CPS agent testified that my daughter had no affection or clear relationship with her biological father. Now the main issue happened in the PTA meeting. He would say things like my family thinks or what is best for my family. I didn't agree with him and I voiced by saying my daughter has different needs and those are priority. He was clearly angry. After the meeting, there was a moment for teachers and parents to mingle and just talk about how the kids are doing. One of the teachers approached me to apologize, saying she didn't know my husband and I didn't like a project she was doing with the kids. I told her I had no husband and my daughter loved the project and wants to be part of it. The teacher then told me that my former friend was going around talking like he's my husband and he represents the family. I saw red. I walked to him and very loudly told him we needed to talk in private. In the parking lot, I told him we were not a family and that he either will respect that I'm the only one that can make decisions on my daughter's education or he won't be involved. He went on about being her biological father. Then I reminded him he had not paid a cent for the pregnancy, my daughter's needs, or even the private school my daughter is in. He hasn't tried to see my daughter since, which she doesn't mind at all. I asked her, I do feel a bit bad about what I said. Am I the jerk? Edit. I wanted to add this because the private messages are driving me insane. He has the money to pay child support. He chose not to pay. He was never prohibited from being involved. He had my phone number. I sent him picture and invited him to birthdays and other big celebrations. He never once came. Also, we are not in the US. EP makes a new post 8 days later. My daughter's father wants to use her as therapy for his wife. I'm going to preface this by saying my 6-year-old daughter's father, I'm going to call him Jeff, has never been my romantic partner. We had a one-night stand. I don't like people calling him my ex since it makes it seem we had some kind of emotional attachment. He was never involved after I told him I was pregnant, and actually wanted me to terminate the pregnancy, but I decided to raise my child alone since I have enough money to raise her without child support. For the whole pregnancy and the first 4 years, Jeff was not in the picture. On my mother's recommendation, I did send him pictures and invited him to special events, but he always replied he had no interest in my daughter. 2 years ago he reappeared and began demanding parental rights. When I didn't do what he wanted, he sued and was told no, he was not getting parental rights. He was given the offer to pay child support and then we can revisit giving him actual rights, but he has refused. He has the money much more than me, but he refuses. I still offered to let him see my daughter in a casual manner. No child support needed. With the agreement, anything legal, medical, or educational will not involve him. He pushed the boundaries and we had a fallout. After that, we didn't hear from him for almost 6 weeks before he called to meet for Christmas. After much discussion, I agreed to bring my daughter over on the condition my daughter's godparents could come. Thus, we went over for Christmas dinner, and finding out Jeff is married and had never told his family he had a child. It was great to be judged by a bunch of strangers. It was uncomfortable the whole time. I'm going to use fake names, but let's say my daughter's name is Katie. His wife kept calling my daughter Gabrielle. Not the actual name she used, but it was that different to my daughter's name. The wife was also very physical, trying to pick up my daughter or parent her. I would block her or tell her to please let me deal with my child. The whole time she'd pretty much ignore me, but Katie didn't seem nervous so I decided to just bid my time. I hit my limit when my daughter said she needed the bathroom and this stranger went, "Oh, Gabby, you need potty? Let mommy change you." My daughter hasn't worn diapers in a while now and she's more than capable of going alone to the bathroom. I immediately told her to stay away from my daughter and that we were leaving. The woman starting wailing that I was kidnapping her baby girl and tried to lunge at me. Her in-laws got in the middle and held her, consoling her and saying that we weren't leaving and for her to calm down like she was the victim. At that point, I just glared at Jeff and told him he'd better explain, or I would be calling the police. He asked me to speak in private in another room and that I could just leave my daughter with his parents. No way that would ever happen. Katie's godparents took her with them despite the wife having a full meltdown. Jeff and I spoke outside, and he explained that he and his wife recently lost a daughter. I'm not going to give specific details on that. All I'll say is that it was sudden and nobody's fault. And as I can only imagine, it had caused some psychological issues to his wife. Apparently, he had the brilliant idea that having Katie pass as their lost child would help his wife without telling me, and that's why he wanted visitations and parental rights all of a sudden. He pleaded for me to leave my daughter with him for a little bit. I asked him what was his plan when his wife heals. His response was disgusting. Well, I'll just send Katie back with you, and it will be just like before. I told him he was insane if he thought I would let him use my daughter like that. What his wife needs is therapy with a professional, not feeding her delusions. And I would not let that woman within miles from my daughter. He told me I was being cruel and didn't know the pain of losing a child. I agreed with him, but reminded Jeff that my priority is not his family. It's my child. What he and his family do to work through their grief has nothing to do with us. I also told him to call his lawyer because I am making sure he never has contact with my child ever again. So that's what I'm bracing for. He's been blasting my phone since Christmas, but I can easily ignore him. My daughter and I are doing a small travel vacation. This isn't an update, just something I feel needs to be said. My daughter is set for life monetarily. She has a trust, and I make really good money in my position. If she was 18 right now, I could put her through college without a loan. She doesn't need child support for quality of life. If I could get child support and never worry about her father trying something, I would be suing him in a heartbeat. But after talking to a lawyer and realizing the risk, I've taken the decision that child support, or possible inheritance, is not worth my child's safety. Safety is always first. Update after the New Year's. Hey, everyone, Happy New Year's! This isn't so much a real update as just letting people know we are home and safe. My daughter is spending the rest of her vacation with her godparents on another trip while I work on things. Moving might be something I'll be looking into, though that is a long-term plan considering all it takes. I won't share too many details on what my lawyer is going to be doing, but we are absolutely going to push for and row. I might not post for some time, at least not until things settled. I do appreciate all the support and good advice. I'm taking a lot of it into account as I plan how to move forward. Update, 18 days later. Hey, everyone! I decided to post a last update since I will be going full silent for a long period. For those that didn't know, I'm right now dealing with my daughter's father and his delusion. He wants to use my daughter as a therapy doll for his wife that recently lost a child. A lot of people were worried for my daughter and me, and I truly appreciate it. We're both safe. She's currently having a great vacation with her godparents, and I'm currently making my own arrangements to move on. My lawyer is working hard on keeping everything in order. I know a cease and desist was his first action, and we are going for no contact. He says we have a solid case, and hopefully this will be resolved relatively fast. And by that, I mean a year or two. We did get a temporary restraining order though. It's only until our first court date, but after it could be extended, I haven't had any direct contact with Jeff. He lawyered up to and tried to send a threat to take full custody. My lawyer laughed at it since his reasoning was parental alienation, except I have proof I tried for years to have him involved. Apparently, turning in a few emails showing my attempts was enough to get them to change parental alienation to a different reasoning. My lawyer is not worried in all honesty, so that feels good. For now, I've decided after much thinking that moving is going to be necessary. It won't be something I can do on a whim, but I'll be looking into new houses within the month to hopefully move sometime this year. School will remain the same, but we will be speaking to the admin to make sure only certain people can pick her up. And part of that decision has been to hire a private driver. He's someone I absolutely trust and has worked for relatives in the past, so I'm very comfortable with the idea and so is my daughter. Now I just have to make sure they don't go for fast food every day after school. Things in all honesty are not that scary right now. I have a good lawyer, good evidence, and my little girl is happy and healthy, so I'm just going to focus on working things little by little. Because of the legal proceedings, I don't think I'll be posting any updates anytime soon. And to those sending me PMs telling me I'm horrible for keeping my daughter from her father or telling me I shouldn't have had her in the first place, please kindly speak to the void. I'm too busy, and your rage bait isn't getting through to anyone. New update, 2.5 months later. I had no intentions to do a new post, but today absolutely took the cake. I thankfully didn't deal with Jeff. Instead, he sent a priest to harass me at work. I'm going to be very blunt. I'm completely detached from religion. I'm not an atheist, just don't really like the idea of the Catholic Church. That's the leading religion in my home country. I respect it and most of my family is Catholic, so I have a detached respect for church officials. Today, I was doing some paperwork when I got a call about a priest asking for me. I didn't have any meetings scheduled and a lot of times we get visits from clergy asking for donations or participation in events, so I figured that was it. I told the secretary to let him in and things at first seemed rather polite. Shake hands, asking how things were. The usual chit-chat. Then the priest began talking about how it had come to his attention that I was a single woman with a child, and that apparently I lived a life of debauchery and hate. His words, I was taken aback and agreed I was a single mother, but that I didn't see how I lived in debauchery and hate. The priest then went on about how he knew my daughter is prohibited from spending time with her father, and that I'm constantly sleeping around with men instead of living a godly life. How he was worried and thought it would be best I considered giving my daughter a chance to live with a proper family rather than see me sell myself. Angry was an understatement. I did keep it civil simply because I was at work and I had no intentions of screaming to a religious man at work. I simply told him that my daughter was fine with me. She lived a safe and happy life. My personal affairs were my own, and that I had no intentions of sending her to another household. I told him that if there was nothing else, he should probably leave as I had other things to attend to. He then showed his hand and that's how I know it was Jeff's doing. The priest told me he didn't think my daughter would be a happy child with me, but her father was well respected in his church and he knew he would raise a proper Christian lady. At that I laughed and simply said no. I once again recommended he left and if he didn't, I would be calling security. He left saying he would try to speak to me again when I'm not being hysterical. I told my secretary and our security not to let him into my office again, and I called my lawyer. I don't have audio, but we do have security feed from him walking into my office. Thank you again to everyone sending well wishes in my previous post. We are still working on that move, but school is back and she's loving it. We still have that temporary restraining order against Jeff and his wife. And school officials know it. Update. 2.5 more months later. This came up far earlier than planned, and while I'm happy to announce my daughter and I are finally free, there is some sad news mixed in. Now, before I go to the update, I did get a lot of questions to answer. 1. Did I know Jeff was married? He wasn't when we had our one-night stand. 2. Are you interested in Jeff? No. I'm aromantic, meaning I do not develop romantic feelings. I don't think that's a healthy mindset for a long-term partner, so I refuse to date. I was okay with one-night stands until I had my daughter. 3. Why did you send information to Jeff? Because my mother recommended it, and she was absolutely right. Had I not done so, he could have sued me for parental alienation. By trying to get him involved, I actually came out far better situated to prove I'm not trying to keep him away out of spite, but because I truly think he's a danger. 4. Why don't you talk more about your daughter's emotions and status? No? No offense, but I give just enough information on my 6-year-old. I don't think people in Reddit are bad, but this is the internet. I don't really need to speak in-depth details on my child's mental state or her actions. What I want to share about myself? That's fine. I'm a full-grown woman. My child is another matter. I don't even post pictures of her in social media. All you need to know, for the people asking, is she's happy, healthy, and has a father figure in her godfather. She's a normal rambunctious little girl. 5. Why was Jeff arrested? He got into a drunk fight, assault charges. It's completely unrelated to my kid, but could have been used for custody matters. Ended up being unnecessary. Now to the update. While our case is yet to be reviewed, we were scheduled for September 2025. Jeff's lawyer contacted mine to say they were dropping their demand for parental rights. About 6 weeks ago, Jeff formally agreed to drop any claims for rights or responsibility to my daughter. I know a lot of people are going to go all over, but what about child support or inheritance? Keep reading. It should explain why it is not worth it. My lawyer went over the documents to make sure it wasn't a legal trap of sort, and he confirmed they were exactly that. He wasn't asking for anything in return, just to drop. I didn't question more, just had it signed and now we need to wait a couple of weeks to get confirmation that everything is done. Since both parties agree on this, it should be relatively quick to get it through the courts. If it sounds weird that he suddenly just gave up, I thought the same. To be sincere, I was half tempted to snoop around, but I was way too busy making arrangements. As some people suggested, I will be moving. I won't leave the country I live in, but I plan to move closer to my support system, my daughter's godparents. Turns out there's a property less than 5 minutes away from them on sale. There's no home built yet, so I have a lot to do, but that's my intended new home. We also got not 1, not 2, 3 dogs. The cat probably is planning my murder. So with all of these changes, I have to admit, I didn't have time to snoop. The thing is, the whole thing came to me rather than me need to look. I met with Jeff's in-laws. It was pure coincidence. I waiting on some things in a store and they were there. I had met them in passing in that mess of a Christmas party last year, but this is really the first time we talked. My daughter was thankfully at school since the topic was heavy. They recognized me and asked if I could speak to them. I wasn't sure, but I decided to be polite and offered to buy them a coffee. They were very nice. Not entitled at all. They explained they were sorry for their daughter's behavior. She had not been the same since she lost her child. Those who called out that she was using her dead baby's name on my daughter were right, and they just wanted to clear the air with me. I told them I didn't personally blame them, but I couldn't forgive their daughter and she was a big worry. That's when shit hit the fan. The mother started crying and the father explained Jeff's wife passed away. Self-inflicted. I feel like crap for the things I told them. I apologize, but they were very gracious and told me they knew I had no idea. We talked a little about her, about their grandchild. I found out what Jeff told me about how his child died was a lie. And now I don't feel so kind as to keep it wrapped up. He shook an infant because she was colic. If you don't know what that is, it's when babies just cry non-stop. I was angry. I'm still angry. No one should ever shake a baby to the point they pass away. That's just diabolical in my opinion. He had told me she just passed away from sudden infant mortality. It's a common thing here, unfortunately. They talked about Jeff and how he's sworn up and down I would agree with his idea to have my daughter pass for their lost grandchild. And that would help their daughter. They were not really thinking straight, and I get it. Jeff is a charmer and mix that with grief. It goes nowhere well. There were other things said, but the main thing was they didn't want any resentment on my part to their family or their daughter. I told them that I don't hate them or their daughter and how sorry I was they had to go through all of this. They gave me a picture of my daughter's half-sister. She was a very cute baby and I plan to one day explain things to my daughter. I think it's important she knows. I also know where Jeff's wife and her baby are buried. I think not yet, but when things aren't as raw as they are right now, I'll take my daughter to visit her sister. I called my lawyer after to give him these new details. He did reprimand me for speaking to the in-laws alone, but he understood the situation. My lawyer is a good friend of mine, and he tends to be very blunt when I make mistakes. He promised me he's making sure that whatever ties could exist between Jeff and my daughter are fully cut legally. More things have come to light too. People were right. Jeff was pretty much lying to everyone, trying to paint himself as this saintly father that couldn't possibly be part of his one surviving daughter's life. A lot of people immediately judge single mothers here as homewreckers or street workers, so I had a few bad encounters with people throwing insults and threats my way. Another thing that came up, which was relatively recent, this was about 2 weeks before he gave up. Jeff began telling people he offered to marry me, but I refused him, that I was always after his money. Thankfully, that one lie didn't go far with most people that know both of us, since I've made it very clear throughout my life that I'm never getting married, and I don't need his money. I got into a high-income job to care for my mom, and now my daughter. I don't really care for excessive luxury. His wife passed away not long before he sent the agreement. He didn't want anything to do with my daughter. It does explain why Jeff gave up. I still think he's the most horrible human being that exists, an entitled murderous bastard. He felt entitled to my daughter. He failed his wife, an unalive and innocent baby. And I know he knows I'm posting this on Reddit, so if you read this, Jeff, I hope karma really gives you everything you deserve. I want to say more, but I don't want to break Reddit's rules. But, yeah, here's the good news mixed with terrible news. I might update this post if anything else happens, but I want to believe this is over. I just want to close this chapter and look into a new start. Small disclaimer, I don't know how he got away with unaliving his child. I have no access to police records or investigation. I'm not part of law enforcement or involved with any judicial entity. For people asking me for more information on it, I'm really sorry, but I can't give you a full legal case. I personally don't know how some people in Reddit get access to police records that easily because I certainly don't have access to them. All the info I have is what I'm told by others, Shizme, or what my lawyer can find. Relevant comments. EP on why Jeff is not in jail. I can't tell you for sure. You have to understand I'm going from what the in-laws told me and what I know of Jeff. I'm not a detective. My guess? He either paid his way out or made it seem it was an accident. As far as anyone I've met that knows about his kid, they thought the same as me. She died suddenly in her sleep. I don't doubt the in-laws though. It sounds like something Jeff would do at this point. EP on her country's laws. We're not in the US first of all. American law isn't a thing here. Here, a good bribe to the right person makes a lot of things go away. All I'll say is Latin America. I've explained in my past posts I don't share my specific country for privacy reasons. Updates in the same post, 3 months later. Well, it's been 3 months and good news all around. To begin with, we're finally free of Jeff. Life is pretty much back to normal. My daughter only asked about Jeff once when we went to the park. We would meet him and it was to make sure Mr. was not there. We also went together to her baby sister's grave. I